Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. You guys, I am so freaking happy and excited because today we are hearing from a total legend. This athlete has 17 IFBB bikini championships, including 3 Olympia titles and 2 Arnold Classic wins. She has been a cover model 11 times. She's a social media influencer who has started as a collegiate track athlete, and now she's helping women through her very own Fit app. Welcome to the show, Ashley Kaltwasser. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing amazing. How about yourself?
I'm awesome. Like I said, I'm really happy that you're here. I feel like I just sped through your name. Is it Kaltwasser?
Yes, Kaltwasser.
So I'm sorry about that, but I'm so glad that you're here. I'm glad that I met you at the expo. And like I said before we hopped on, just happy you were able to get on for an interview so soon. I have a lot of stuff planned. But before we get into all of it, I'm going to ask you something I ask everybody, which is, do you have a ritual or something you do or think about right before your heel hits the stage?
You know what? Yeah, I do. I have in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have fun with this. I always try to think fun, 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 happy, happy, happy. Even if I'm tired or even if I'm hungry or whatever it may be, just think, wow, I trained so hard for this moment and I'm about to have the most fun I can with it. Enjoy every second of it.
That's awesome. I love that. And it totally shows in your posing on stage as well. You always look like you're having a great time. You're so natural up there. I mean, obviously, because you've been doing this for so long, but you've been an athlete all your life, really. And you started as a gymnast, and then by high school, you were breaking track and field records. And then you competed collegiately in track and field. And then I'm curious how that influenced your journey into competing and just even as a competitor, how all of that plays a role.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely taught me how to work hard. I've been competitive my whole life. It's all I know. And when I'm not training for something, I feel out of place. But it definitely taught me discipline. It taught me how to train and what hard work actually feels like.
Totally. And I'm sure that must also influence the way you've been able to grow in the industry as well and in business.
Yes, absolutely.
That's awesome. And kind of focusing into competing, you have had a really successful track record in this. And when you decided to take a step away from competing, did you think that you were never going to step on stage again? What was going through your mind?
I never thought I wasn't going to compete again. I was just like, you know what? I just need a little mental break and I'm going to play it by ear and just see how I feel throughout. But I realized again, like I feel like a part of me is missing because I'm not training for anything. I'm not competing for anything. I just felt so out of place. So I missed it too much. So I decided to come back 1 year later.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And then when you came back, you actually were in prep for over 6 months, right? Working with some thyroid problems. So
Mm-hmm.
I remember I was watching your entire comeback series on YouTube, actually during some of my preps, and it was really awesome to just see how much you shared and how positive you were through all of it. And
Mm-hmm.
what exactly was going on with the thyroid, and how did you finally break through those problems and see results?
Mm-hmm. All right. So yeah, basically what you mentioned, it had prohibited me from peaking in the right amount of time. I had every intention to do the Arnold Classic last year. I thought that was going to be like my comeback show, but it turns out actually around this time last year, I found out I had a thyroid issue, which kind of explained it because I was in the gym working really hard, and my diet was on point, but I'm like, why am I not really moving? Why is my weight kind of staying the same? And I just hit this huge plateau for a while. And then I got my blood work drawn, because my coach had suggested that I do it, which he does with all his athletes. It's very important, by the way, just putting this out before I say anything. It's really an important thing to do to get your blood work done, whether you're a serious competitor or not. You'd be surprised, things that are off, vitamins that you're lacking. But yeah, I think everyone should get their blood work done, like at least once a year. But anyway, so I had found out through my blood work that I had a slow thyroid. It was very slow. I also had anemia, which is low blood iron. See, I would never have known that either.
Mhm.
So to overcome this, it just took a lot of time and a lot of hard work, and just working with my endocrinologist and my coach. So it definitely wasn't like, oh, I found out I have hypothyroidism. Okay, now I know what's wrong. Now I can prep correctly. No, it's something that takes a lot of time to get everything adjusted, to get whatever you're lacking to equalize and just have all your hormones working in harmony. So that's why it had taken me 6 months to prep for my first
Wow.
show, which was the Denver show on June 2nd, 2018.
And that was a really awesome show for you, right?
Yes, absolutely. It was such a great experience to be back on stage again. I cried. My coach cried. We
Oh.
were so happy. It was a good time. I was just, not even just because I won it, just because it's like, wow, after all that I did, I finally reached my goal. And I think the saying goes, the harder the struggle, the sweeter the reward. And that just explained it to a T. I struggled so hard to get to stage weight. And yeah, it just made the
Mhm.
reward so much better.
Totally. I have my wallpaper is the comeback is always stronger than the setback. And it's
Oh
so
yeah.
true. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing. And I really like your quote about it being so much sweeter, because when we are able to commit to ourselves, even when we're not seeing results, and
Mm-hmm.
we can continue on the journey we've set out for, it's so fulfilling when we finally get there. And how did you actually keep your head up throughout that process when you weren't seeing results? And then, of course, you worked through and you were struggling. Like, how did you keep your head up through that?
I will be honest, that was the toughest part, because I'm not sure about you, but what motivates me the most is seeing progress, right? A
Mm-hmm.
little bit of progress each week. Okay, yeah, I can see I'm getting leaner, or I'm getting more developed in this area. But to see zero progress for a long time is so frustrating. It's like, what's going on? What am I doing wrong? Am I not trying hard enough? I think I'm trying really hard, but nothing's moving. So it's just like the most frustrating time. But I had to just keep in mind, like, you know what? This happens. I mean, at the time, like I mentioned, I didn't know I had like a thyroid issue. Maybe it was like something that I considered, but I wasn't sure. I was just like, I just got to keep going. And however long this is going to take me, even if I don't compete at the Arnold, I will get there sometime. I'm not sure when. And then I promised myself, I was like, when I do get um, to competitions and to competition ready, I'm not going to let myself go the opposite direction again. Like, I mean, of course, I'll, you know, live a healthy fitness lifestyle, but I'm not going to gain 25 pounds back like I did last time, is what I'm trying to say. Not that I'm staying in competition shape all year round, but I'm going to be very mindful of, you know, how much weight I put on and how I go about doing it, because off season is very important, even more so important than the in season, a lot would say. So yeah, it was
Wow.
tough, but I just kept the end goal in mind. However long it's going to take me, I'm going to get there. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I will get there, is what I always just told myself.
That's awesome. And that's super helpful because I'm sure there's people listening who are going through that right now, not seeing the
Mhm.
results they want to, or maybe not seeing results they expected. And you actually mentioned in some of your videos that you would get nervous about the number on the scale, especially when it's not
Mhm.
what you want to see. So, what
Right.
do you do to overcome that when it happens for you?
So I'll put this out there. It is deceiving sometimes the number on the scale. And does it really matter my weight? Not really. I know, right, even for me right now, I'm in good shape. Even compared to the normal fitness person, I'm in pretty darn good shape. And I know that. There's no question about it. But for me, it's kind of like a sensitive subject because it brings back, I guess, bad memories of me trying to lose weight and I couldn't. Like, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So not that necessarily a certain weight looks better than the other. It's more so if I'm not seeing progress. I'm afraid to like plateau like I did again. It's just
Yeah.
like stuck. It's like stuck in my mind. I'm like, if I don't, reach a certain like progress point at a certain time, I just get nervous because I don't want to be like a month out and be like, oh, I gotta lose 10 pounds in a month. I don't ever want to be in that situation. So it's just kind of nerve wracking for me sometimes if I don't see progress.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I feel really similarly. I'm definitely not one to get upset with the scale. Like, I'm not going to beat myself up and let it determine my day. But I know for sure, like, if I'm getting ready for a check in with my coach or even just check in with myself, like, throughout my improvement season, and I look at the scale and it's not what I expected or what I wanted, or where I think I should be, it can be really like almost feels like a slap in the face because you're like, I haven't done anything wrong. Why is it
Right.
not showing that? So I
Mhm.
totally get it. And I know you work really closely with Adam, um,
Yes.
and that's Team Elite Physique. So
Hmm.
what are some things, because he has a very different approach that I've noticed than most coaches in the industry. So what are some things he's given you or helped you with that you think that you think helps set you apart from other competitors?
Well, he has taught me so much. And I think him as a coach, he is honestly the most caring person, and he really has his athletes' best interests in mind. And whether that be like telling them that they're not ready for stage or maybe giving more, you know, a realization to people that they need to do this to be where they want to be. Um, because I think a lot of coaches will sugarcoat things and be like, yeah, yeah, you look great when they really don't. And
Mhm.
he's very smart too. He has like such like such a great background in what he does, and he takes a very scientific approach to things and doesn't just go by these bodybuilding myths and like I'm sure we've all heard the term like bro science and like
Mhm.
bodybuilding science, things that just people say that maybe maybe the old school bodybuilders used to do, but there's no real proof behind it. So he's just very like aware of everyone's progress and just pays so much attention to the athletes. And I don't feel like a number. Like he really gets just as excited as me. But having him as a coach is great because I do feel like that is one advantage that I have over other athletes is my coach. Like he's really into it. He really does care. And I'm not just some number. I'm definitely you know, uh, um, like the focus of why he's going to the show. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he comes and supports. He's a great cheerleader. He helps me with anything I need, even silly things like, oh, there's something in my hair. Like, can you brush the hair like in the back? Like, I'm not even kidding. I joke around and I say he's my coach slash pageant mom as a joke, but he is like that. He's very, very attentive. The most attentive coach that I've ever met.
Oh, that's awesome. I can tell even just from all the videos, you guys have a really great dynamic and it's really
Mhm.
obvious how much he cares about you. And didn't he get you like a bed for his house or was that a joke?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. There's because I go to Denver quite often to train. I'll stay there for a few days or even a week sometimes.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, instead of getting an Airbnb, I'll just go in his basement and sleep, and I got a bed.
I love it. I love how serious, you guys take it too. Like you are 110% athlete, like
Yeah.
you live, breathe, eat, sleep, like that's your life, Obviously, I'm going to ask you some things as we go that is outside of competing as well, but right
Uh-huh.
now your main focus is the Arnold Classic, and
Yes.
this one means a lot to you because didn't you win the amateur Arnold?
Yes, that was the show that basically started it all for me. Like the
Wow.
first big show I won. And it's in my home state of Ohio too, so it's like extra special.
Oh, that's awesome. And back
Hmm.
in 2012, they weren't giving, I don't even know if they do that now, but do they give pro cards for the amateur Arnold winners now?
I think they do now, but back in 2012, believe it or not, they didn't for the American athletes. And that's because yeah, they had a different system back then. And this is what was the funny part is um, the class winners that all compete against me in the overall, they all got their pro cards, but I didn't because they were
What?
foreign. Yeah, because they were foreign and I was from America, and they have less chances of getting their pro card, so they could petition with their country and the IFBB to get their pro card. But for an American competitor, I had to win like um, a national contest or Team Universe or one of the pro qualifying contests, I should say. So yeah, it was took me longer than anybody
Wow.
else to get that.
Seriously, what the heck? That is so, like, just the concept of that and hearing you say that is like, what? Like, that doesn't even make sense. But obviously, every part of the journey like leads to something greater. So when
Yeah.
after your Arnold did you end up winning your pro card?
So I ended up getting my pro card in July at the Team Universe competition. They don't call it Team Universe anymore, but it's the competition that's held in Teaneck, New Jersey. So I had won the overall there, and I got my pro card, and I'll never forget it. I didn't sleep. I couldn't sleep that whole night. I was so excited. I was so excited for my photo shoot the next day with JM when he takes pictures of the winners and stuff. I was just on cloud nine. It was such a great feeling.
That is awesome. And last year, you brought this up. You had to drop out of the Arnold. And
Mm-hmm.
the reason for that was that you just weren't peaking in time. Your body wasn't adjusting. So, how does it feel now coming into this one?
It feels like almost like I definitely need to come in like really good because I am so fearful of that happening again. I mean, keep in mind though, I do have the thyroid problem fixed now. That's not the issue it was last year, but it's kind of like I'll be darned if that happens 2 times in a row. I can't do that 2 times in a row. So it's super important that I peak in time, and my coach, he's like not worried about me at all when it comes to where I'm at and where I should be right now, but I'm just so like, I guess, paranoid about it, and I'm like I gotta be in shape in time, and how competitors get. So you know I'm always like, no, I'm not ready until I'm like, like look like I go on stage kind of thing, but it's coming soon, and I also got to keep myself in check sometimes too, like, Ashley, you still got a month, all right, like keep it calm, get it together, we got this. So I just have to remind myself of that sometimes too.
I love it. Yeah, and I think it's cool. Not, I mean, yeah, it's cool to hear that even pros go through that of like, I'm not going to be ready. Like a top competitor like you is
Hmm.
still in the back of your mind thinking that and having to address it as it comes up and having to go to your coach to calm your nerves as well. So that's
Hmm.
awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And
Hmm.
what are you doing to prepare for this one now? Like, was there feedback from the O and from your coach that you're working with? Like, what's the game plan?
So the feedback from the O was I had my back pose might have been a little too hard, or I posed too hard on the back pose. I can definitely soften that up by not posing so hard, but I don't know. I think that was one thing that they had said, and maybe my posing was rigid as well, maybe like a little stiff. But yeah, the biggest one was the back posing, I guess. So I got to kind of keep that in mind too, is not to flex as hard, I guess, is depending on how lean I am at the time. That's just something to keep in mind. And, you know, at the top level, it sounds like silly things, but it's not, because everyone's so competitive and at such a high level that these little things are big things. So, you know, just got to keep that in mind. As far as things to work on too, maybe some a little more upper body development to match my lower body would be helpful. Just a little bit though. And yeah, so the game plan for coming into the show is, I honestly, I wish they had more media coverage at the Korea show, but I feel like in South Korea, that was my best look. And that was like a week after the Olympia, where, you know, I had like a cheat meal or two, filled out a little more. And I was aware of the back closing as well. But for this show, I'm going to try to bring a similar look to Korea, from Korea, you know. And also the things I'm doing to prepare for that is doing some more upper body stuff. And I've been really going ham with the cardio, like, because I don't know, I get bored with treadmill a lot. So I've been doing some like Santa Monica stairs workouts, and I've also been doing like 10K races just because I'm
Wow.
competitive. Yeah, I'm a competitive person. So I get a much better workout if I'm running with people in a race than I am on the treadmill. So especially here, you know, it's winter here in California, so it gets dark earlier. So I always do my workouts in the morning too. So that's when they have the races, is in the mornings. It's perfect.
Wow, that's awesome. That's so different. And even in your YouTube videos, you are always doing like something different for cardio than you would normally see. Like you're on those like huge red stairs. Like
Yeah.
I just like how you take it outside and you do different things. Like you're really someone who seems to challenge like the norm, I guess that would be what I'm looking
Yes.
to say.
Yes.
So how do you like find like whenever you talk to some of the other competitors, do you find that there's like a lot of differences or only little things?
Um, well, I mean, we all have the same, you know, goals. How we choose to train is we're gonna be different body types, different coaches, you know, and even things like what I think is fun cardio versus not so fun cardio, you know. So you're right. I do like to challenge myself and you know, I guess surprise myself and surprise other people with the way I train. Um, at the same time, although I'm doing these races and stuff, I'm not doing like hours of cardio. That's like, if I do a 10K race on the weekend, that's like my long cardio day. And I do feel like my diet is different than others for the fact that I don't eat any seafood. I hate seafood. It's gross.
Same.
You don't eat seafood either?
Nope, not on prep,
Oh,
never.
yeah. All right. See, it can be done, people. You don't have to do fish and asparagus every meal. So a lot of competitors are really big on the fish, and I just don't. I can't do it. I will throw up. So yeah, I guess you could say that my diet's a little different. And training, yeah, I definitely do more extreme training than the others, from what I've noticed.
Yeah, totally. And you train with your coach a lot too, which is a very valuable asset, I think, to what you're able to bring.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of growing your upper body, have you had to change your training to create more results, or are you just focusing on something more specific?
Well, definitely my shoulders, bis and tris, but more so my shoulders. The only thing I'm doing is just adding more frequency. So I might train my shoulders like twice a week, sometimes 3 times, rather than just like once a week, you know?
Yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's awesome that you're someone who can recognize where you need to grow and not take it as an attack or like to heart. It's more just like, okay, like, yeah, let's do this. And you
Mm-hmm.
always stay so positive. Like, I really admire that about you. And um, when you like came back into the game, so to speak, you mentioned that you came back not to prove anything, but because
Mm-hmm.
you really love this sport and you're doing it for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel that mindset has actually helped you be so successful in your comeback?
I I think it's really helped because unlike other people, like I'm I will never assume I'm going to win anything. I don't go into a show assuming I'm going to win. Even if it's a small show with competitors that I've never heard of, I'm not going to assume. It's kind of like you hope for the best, but at the end of the day, as long as you tried and gave it your all, that's all you can do and be happy with it. You know, I got fifth at the Olympia, yet I was so excited. Like, ask any of my friends, I was so excited. And you know why? It's because I saw such a drastic improvement, like in my glutes. I told everybody that's what I'm most proud of from my season last year is my glute development, even within a 3-month span. And I just look back and I'm like, wow, I really did that. That's crazy. Wow. I was so excited. Like when I saw my pictures and everything, I was like, I didn't even know I could do that. And that's the best feeling is surprising yourself. And in general, I've always kind of been like that. Um, Not necessarily just when I came back, but I think that's what the successful competitors kind of have that mindset is because if you're expecting to win every time or expecting a certain placing every time and you don't get it, these competitors get discouraged, they get down in the dumps, they kind of take it almost too seriously. And you would think, what? She's saying that? But yeah, I try not to take it too seriously because it's fun. This is a choice I made. This is the life I chose. And I love it. And I love everything that goes along with it. I love traveling, visiting different countries to compete, doing seminars, meeting people like you. I love it all. I love everything that goes into it. A placement is just a very small like glimpse, but you know, it's about the journey, not the placement.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really, really good insight for anybody listening and just for competitors in general in any sport. And the fact that it's brought you so much to your life and you're able to see that is so beautiful. It's really awesome, actually. And I know that being in the sport, but really being in the fitness industry as a whole, you've become a very well-known name. Everybody knows your name. Everyone knows who you are, especially in the I'm just hit my microphone. I'm sorry. I was using my hands to express this and I just punched my microphone. Yeah, but like it seems like everybody knows who you are, especially in the bikini world. And how has being so successful in this industry helped you in your life as well?
Sure. So one of the most fulfilling and rewarding things I think is being able to like motivate and inspire others.
Mm.
And I just think it's so incredible that like, you know, I'll get like messages from girls all over the world saying like, you know what, Ashley, because you, I really, I really stepped it up in the gym. Or Ashley, because you, like, I stuck with my diet because you motivate me, and I watched your video and I tried to work out and I'm sore. And I love hearing this, that I helped somebody in some way. And that's the great thing about social media too, is that like you can touch and inspire people from all over the world that you wouldn't have normally. And being in the competition scene, just I get it kind of like to show it even more so. And you know, that is what I'm known for, to be a competitor. But also like if anybody sees like my journey behind what it took to get to the competition stage, I hope they do realize that like, you know, I struggled too. And if they're going through a hard time, they can get through it just like I did. So I just think it's incredible that, you know, people, if they look up to me, that's great. And I try to be a great example for them and try to be helpful and motivate and inspire because it makes me feel good in return.
That's awesome. And you totally do. And I think it's really cool that you take so much responsibility and pride in that. And it obviously shows because you create so much content that really adds value to people's lives and you document your own journeys. And I think that documentation helps others to see that one, they're not alone in the process or the struggle they might be facing. And two, you can remain happy and fulfilled on the course, even when you're looking to succeed in something new or something different. And I
Mhm.
think that's awesome. And you mentioned just a little bit ago how much traveling has come involved in your life because of competing as well. And that's awesome. So when you are traveling or taking time off, do you, and not necessarily if you're in prep, but I mean, just like if you're like on a break or something in your improvement season, or you're taking like you went to Hawaii, took a little time off. So when you're traveling or doing that, do you just stop tracking or weighing food? Like what's your approach to taking a little bit of time off?
So my approach to taking time off or taking a miniature break, I mean, because I have actually taken a few throughout the year. After every show, my coach would have me take like a week off. So after Denver, I took a week off. After the Battle in the Desert show, I took a week off. After Korea, I took a week off. It's
Wow.
what I try to keep in mind is like, first off, food is, you know, I think sometimes as competitors, we get like into a routine, like, oh, got to eat every 3 hours or whatever. But if I'm taking time off, I'll kind of be conscious of what is going into my body. I don't go crazy. I ask myself first and foremost, Ashley, are you really hungry right now? Or are you just eating this because you can?
Mm,
So that's a big question we need to ask ourselves. Is this a craving? Is this I'm eating it because I'm eating because I'm bored, or are you genuinely hungry? And I think it's important to realize the differences between all those. And I will definitely indulge in some things that I haven't before, but I will never stuff myself. I actually hate the feeling of being like full. It's like uncomfortable, like really full.
yeah.
I so if I do eat anything, it's like kind of like in moderation, small amounts. If I want to try something I haven't in a while, like a brownie or something, I'll pick at it a little bit, put it away for later, have it the rest of it another day. You know what I mean? So
Totally.
I try to just be very conscious because the body is very sensitive, especially when we come off of a show. So I just think, wow, I worked so hard to get this body. I am not going to ruin it by, eating a whole cake or something.
Yeah, and taking that week-long break after allows you to, or I would imagine it would allow you to still maintain that desire because you worked so hard to get there without having to feel like you're going to go overboard or like you need to. And
Mhm.
I know that a lot of the competitors I've worked with, because I do like post show personal development work with competitors, and
Mhm.
a lot of them struggle with this, the aspect of overstuffing, especially after a show. And
Mhm.
I've struggled with it in the past too. And something that I
Mhm.
learned is exactly what you said, which was a lot of times we eat because we can now versus we're actually hungry. And
Mhm.
I thought that that was a really great point that you brought up, and something that a lot of people go through. So when you are faced with that desire to eat something, what do you personally do to determine the difference between being hungry, having a craving, or just eating it because you can?
I would. It's kind of a physical feeling. So hunger, stomach might be growling. You might feel a little weak, a little lightheaded, like a little unenergized. But a craving, however, is your mind starts thinking, what what sounds really good, like chocolate. Usually, when you crave, it's like something unhealthy rather than wanting to physically nourish your body. You know what I mean? Because
Yes.
a lot of times with cravings, it's empty calories, it's sugary foods, it's super fatty foods. But hunger, you'll eat to nourish your body, and you feel a lot better afterwards too.
Totally. I mean, it's not every day I crave chicken, but I eat the
Hmm.
chicken because I'm hungry and I gotta eat it. Like,
Yes.
I totally understand what you're saying, and I appreciate you sharing those differences. And um, looking at time off after a show, why do you think that that is so important?
I think it's very unrealistic to think that we can like go that hard for that long without a little breather. I'm human. We're all human. I can't go 100% 365 days a year. And it's important to take these little breaks because it's very refreshing. Your body can recover. And also, you get your motivation back because believe me, by the end of the week, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm ready. to freaking do this again. Yeah, I'm ready to kill it in the gym, get back on track. And it's just a very invigorating experience. Just having that little breather just to kind of maybe try some foods you haven't in moderation, or go on vacation without worrying about bringing all your food with you. It's important because we got to be human sometimes. And, you know, life, it's not all about, measuring your food, and it's important to just take a little time for yourself.
It's not about measuring your food?
No, I know, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, I totally love that you shared that because I I have gone through that mindset before of, well, if I'm not 120%, then I'm failing. If I'm not giving everything every single day of the year, then I'm never going to be successful. And I know that a lot of these beliefs end up being more limiting than serving because
Mm-hmm.
they don't give us the room to breathe. And there's girls who I know and I'm friends with, and they go through the same thing because I feel like a lot of athletes are very much all or nothing. And we've been conditioned to think that taking a break or taking time off can actually be detrimental, when in reality, it's quite the opposite. And you're a great example of that. And
Mm-hmm.
um, I think it's good that you shared that with us, because to hear it from someone who is doing so well in the sport and in life, actually being real about it and, saying you have permission to be human is a big deal, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we can look at people like you and think, oh, they're superhuman. Even if we know
Mm-hmm.
that you're not, we might think, sometimes we see it and we're like, these people are superhuman. They're always on. They never, ever go through anything. They don't take time off, whatever. But it's great to hear you say that. And that's helpful for me. And I know it's going to be helpful for others as well. So
Mm-hmm.
this is kind of a more personal question. And
Mm-hmm.
when you took a break from competing, how did that impact you mentally, physically, emotionally, and even financially?
Well, I would say that I did feel a sense. At first, it was great, right? I don't have to weigh my food. If I get to the gym, or if I don't, it doesn't matter. But then I started feeling a sense of like, who am I? Like, what am I training for? Like, you know, it's kind of like I I know a lot of people can't say this, but this sport means a lot to me. Um, More so than probably 99% of the people out there. So, I mean, I felt like it's part of my identity, right? Or even
Mm-hmm.
just being an athlete in general is part of my identity. So to be not in the scene and just kind of doing whatever, I felt very lost. I had some fun times. Yeah. I got to hang out with my friends a lot. I got to live a pretty normal life. you know I live in Hollywood, so it's super fun here. Lots of
Yeah.
things to do, and I did enjoy myself in that aspect. But at the end of the day, when I'm home, just kind of like, well, thinking to myself, wow, there's a show going on right now and I'm not a part of it, or everyone I see is prepping and I'm not right now. So that's kind of like, it kind of like just took a toll on my mentality, I guess. And then when I went to my friend's show, and then I was like, oh man, I miss this so much. And that's all it took. And I was like, I want to go back, and I'm ready.
Wow.
And as far as what's the other aspects you said? Mentally, physically,
Emotionally and even financially.
and financially. Okay. Physically was not a good choice. I gained 25 pounds, and it seems like maybe not so much, but I mean, I was not that big of a person anyway,
Mm-hmm.
so to get that 25 pounds off took so much when I ended up prepping. I definitely got softer. I mean, you could tell that I still worked out, but it's not to the extent. I'm an athlete, so I love to be very, what's the word I'm looking for? I like to be very agile, efficient with my body, and
Mm-hmm.
I just felt kind of slow and sluggish, even just walking throughout the day. like my thighs would like touch together, and I just didn't have the energy that I have whenever I'm like in shape. And financially, it didn't affect me, to be honest, because I still did social media influencing work, so working with other brands and such like that. And what was the last one? And
Yeah, that was it.
oh, that was it. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you. So,
Hmm.
social media influencing is something that a lot of pros are into, and a lot of people, even who are just in the fitness industry, well known. And some people, I think, have fears that, well, what if social media just like poof and it was gone, right? Um,
Yeah.
have you ever thought about those things, or have people ever like put negative thoughts in your mind about it? Like, how have you been able to be successful on social media as an influencer? And two, do you ever have those doubts or struggles?
Yeah, of course. Even let's take MySpace for example. Like, who even uses MySpace anymore? But back in the day, that was big, right?
Yes.
Of course, I try to also expand my brand throughout other platforms. But at the end of the day, social media is just kind of like, I like to think of it as a few things. It's basically an online diary, a
Mhm.
documentation of what you're going through in life, scrapbook, whatever you may call it. Um, and also, it's a great way to advertise and to promote yourself too. And these are all great things. And it's just basically the modern day version of like billboards or magazine ads or whatever you may call it. So it's a great way also to, like I had mentioned, connect with people all over the world to, spread your message.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is funny because, of course, I think we've all had that thing like, what if social media just didn't exist tomorrow? I mean, I have other little projects and stuff I dabble in as well besides social media. Um, but I would be sad.
Yeah.
I would be sad. And then how did I get to be successful with social media?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, at the end of the day, this is a science. It really is. And there's so much that goes into social media that people don't even realize. So basically, my story was once I moved from Ohio, I went and moved to Burbank for 6 months, and I didn't like it there. And now I live in California, or sorry, Hollywood.
Hmm.
And um, it just so happens the apartment complex I moved into, it was the social media capital of the world, and I had no idea. I just moved into it because
Wow.
I liked the amenities. But once I got here, I was like, man, people are filming things all the time. Then I'd meet people around the building and in the gym and stuff, and they'd be like, oh yeah, what's your Instagram? And follow me or whatever. And I would look at them like, dang, they got millions of followers. Like what? But from being in this building, and getting to know these people, they've become my friends, and a lot of them do like videos, and if they ever needed like a fit girl, like they would ask me to be in their video, and I learned from them, the science
Yeah.
behind it and engaging and all of that. And I'm still not the best with it. Nothing like some of these people are. I'm not. But I can kind of catch on a
That's
little bit.
awesome.
So it was cool. It was kind of like a free lesson in social media, I guess, being around these people. So it's just like, wow, interesting. It's a
Yeah,
whole nother world.
exactly. It really is. And I have to agree with you. Social media, like, I literally write about it in my gratitude journal, just about how amazing it is of a platform to be able to reach so many people. Like you said earlier, that we wouldn't have been able to reach otherwise, like
Hmm.
way back when, like, the amount of sales or people you'd meet was extensive, from the front porch to maybe 5 miles out. And on a really good day, if you were energized, maybe you'd go further, or you'd
Hmm.
connect with someone who will continue it. But it was never like you could just hop online, post something, and suddenly like 1,000 people from another country see it. And like people didn't even know there were other countries, at one point in this
Hmm.
world. And so it is really really awesome that we can have that type of influence, and I'm glad that you met people who were able to help you expand in that too. And um, in the time off you took from stage, of course you experienced different things like we just talked about, but what did you learn about yourself in that time?
I learned that, like, it sounds super like cheesy, but we all like have a purpose in life or something we're born to do or really good at. And to have that like not a part of my life, I realized, I was like, wow, I feel like this was what I was like meant to do.
Mm.
And this is what I love to do. I realized this is like, even if I'm not competing, the realm of fitness is something that's so important to me and something I'm good at and something that I feel so comfortable with. And I love the people who are all, you know, interested in this industry as well. So it's like I realized this is my calling, I guess. I'm not just talking about competing, but fitness in general. It's like what I was meant to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that without taking that break, maybe you wouldn't have been able to find that as easily or
Hmm.
as like apparently. So that's awesome. And um in in prep now, like when you're in prep, what does a normal day of training look like for you?
A normal day of training. So I'll wake up and roll out of bed and go to cardio in my pajamas. And if it's not a weekend, if it's just a regular day, I might just go at my apartment gym on the step mill, I think it's called, like the escalator thing,
Uh-huh.
step master, whatever. And I'll do my cardio there and I'll listen to music. I'll get back. Um, I will do my emails. I'll do all of that kind of stuff. And then around the afternoon time, I will go back for like my lifting. But I'll eat in between. I didn't mention that, but I'll have a meal in between, and then just kind of get ready for lifting. I am definitely a morning person. So I like to get the hardest done in the morning. So for me, cardio is like not something I always look forward to. So I'm like, oh, got to get that out of the way first. And then,
Yes.
you know, I hate like lifting at night. I hate training at night. I hate it. So I always try to get done even before like 1 p.m.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
Okay, cool. So a lot of your days are obviously focused around your training, and especially in a time like this where you're getting ready for a big show. So I want to kind of take it to what some of the questions from some of my followers were. I
Hmm.
picked out a few of them that I thought would be good and kind of tie into what I had already planned for us. So
Okay.
um, first question was, what was it like to get first in multiple pro shows and then take fifth at the O?
I didn't, I, like I mentioned, I was not even disappointed. I told everyone, I was like, you know what? If I can just get into the shape I was in before, I will be happy. You know, I'm not asking for much. I have to be grateful for what I have, I guess.
Mm.
And not only did I get back into the shape I was before, I, in my opinion, exceeded my physique previously.
Mm-hmm.
So I was happy about that. And I was not sad. I mean, that the night of Olympia, I was the happy camper. I was so excited.
That's awesome. And another question started with Ashley, you are so inspiring. What is your ultimate goal in the sport?
Oh, that's so sweet. All right. So I I will say two things. My ultimate goal in the sport, to basically be a legend, first off. That would be awesome to be a legend. And then secondly is to have my own little fitness empire. And I know that's really big and I keep it big for right now, but I take the opportunities that are good and they come from time to time, and it's important to jump on them when you can. So whatever comes of it, and however I expand my fitness, that is my goal. And right now I'm very focused on competing because it's something that's super fun for me. But someday when I'm no longer wanting to compete, I will still continue in the industry some way or how.
That's awesome. And it's funny because I introduced you as a legend,
Oh,
basically.
yes.
Check. No. um, so one of the other questions I thought was interesting was, of all the bikini competitors you have competed against, who's giving you or who has given you the most run for your money?
Well, let's see. I know it's probably not the answer you want to hear because it's kind of a boring answer, but I kind of just focus on me.
Yeah.
So I don't really dabble or think about it too much. But if we're looking at stats, like clearly Angelica, because she has the second most Olympia titles, and I believe she has 2 Arnold titles too. I'm not
Hmm.
sure. So if we're looking on paper, definitely her for sure. But you never know when somebody's gonna pop up out of the blue. I did, 2013, I popped up out of the blue. So you never
Yeah.
know who's coming
Laura
after
Lee,
you.
she popped up out of the blue.
Yeah,
Like,
yep.
it's crazy. And I think
Mhm.
it's awesome that you're so focused on you and your own game, because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. And even you said it yourself, like, if you know you went out there and you tried your best and you gave it your all, that's all that matters. That's what should make you
Mhm.
happiest. So, what would you say to girls who struggle with maybe comparing themselves? Because sometimes girls will, and I've done this in the past, but I got away from it pretty quick when I realized how crappy it made me feel.
Mhm.
But will like go onto show promotion pages and see who they're competing against or with, and just like scroll through profiles. Like, what would you recommend that they do?
Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea, especially, I mean, you can look at their name and stuff and, see if you recognize them. Oh, my friend so and so is competing this one. Cool. That's okay. But don't compare yourself, especially on social media. And here's why. There are so many factors that go into pictures or videos. For one, photos can be from a day out of the last show, but they're posting it as if it's, they're 2 weeks out from a show. Do you
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? Like a throwback Thursday or something.
Yes.
But also lighting and filters and even some use of Photoshop. It's so it's so bad for you to look at that and think, wow, I'm not to that level, whenever there's tricks that people do all the time, to make their photos look better. So don't take those too seriously. And even if it is a photo that's unedited, that because they look good in that photo, or oh, they have great abs, or oh, their hamstrings or whatever, like that doesn't mean it looks better on stage next to you.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? It's things look different on stage when you get to a peak. They're at their peak. It's so hard to tell just from a picture.
Yeah, absolutely. And it might all change on show day. They,
Mm-hmm.
like sometimes some people will peak too soon. Some people won't peak at the right timing, maybe fill out too much or be too stringy. Like, there's so many factors, like you said. And even on show day, like when I'm in line with the girls, it's everyone's super nice. We're all really chill, but it's game face on, and you're in your own element, you're in your own zone, and you don't even really look at the other girls' bodies or anything, because like you said, when you're out there, it doesn't really matter necessarily what they look like to you because you're not the
Mm-hmm.
one deciding. If we were the ones deciding, we'd all put
Exactly.
ourselves first. So awesome. Okay, so I have had a lot of fun talking to you about all this. Is there anything you think that I should have asked you that I didn't?
um No, I think you did a really good job. I can't think of anything. No.
Thank you. Okay, cool.
Uh-huh.
So then the way that I like to kind of wrap it up is by asking you, do you have any specific advice, or what would be your best advice for someone who is thinking about competing, and then also for someone who is competing and looking for their pro card?
So the person who is thinking about competing, the advice I would be giving them is be a master of your craft before you step on stage. Research the sport, know how they pose, know what the bikinis look like, what's a good bikini company. There's so much that goes into the sport than just working out and then showing up looking good. Okay. There's
Mm.
so much because you can have a great physique, right? An awesome physique, maybe the best physique on stage, but if you don't know how to pose, you don't have the right suit, you don't have the right tanning or hair, it's just all going to go to waste. Okay. And I've made that mistake before too. Okay. My first show, I had this white off the rack bikini. My hair was bleach blonde. My tan
No.
was not even a competition tan. It was like a mystic tan, like from the salon, you know? Like,
Oh
I mean,
no.
this was like when bikini was a little bit newer, but still, like, I was clueless, so clueless. Okay, my body did not look bad, but everything else was just. I showed up and it was like clear, like, yeah, this girl, she didn't research it enough. So it's definitely something you need to do. YouTube's great. So YouTube, the current bikini competitions that are taking place these days. And then for the person that I would say is getting their pro card, um, however long it takes you, don't give up and don't get discouraged. And don't like I say, don't go into a show expecting a lot of things. Okay. It's one of those things, like, if you get it, that's great. Eventually you will, if you have the right mindset and you're consistent and you have the genetics for it, you think you can do this, you can do it. Okay. But don't come into a show and get discouraged if things don't go the way you want, because those are the people that will go hard competing all, like, in so many shows for 1 year, and then you don't hear about them the next year because they're just done, they're over it, they burnt themselves out and they expected too much. So just
Mhm.
keep consistent. Every show is a learning experience. It's important to take time to look and reflect and see what you need to work on for the next show. And you're going to get a lot of people saying, oh, you should have won that show. Your friends and your family, of course, they're going to say that. They say that. I have news for you. Everyone's friends and family are going to tell them that they should have won. But it's important to be real with yourself. Get an opinion from somebody who knows the sport. A judge's feedback is the best. But just always take that into account. Be realistic with yourself so that you're able to improve and learn from every mistake that you make.
That's awesome. And
Mm-hmm.
that advice for both is really, really good. And you actually mentioned something that I feel like I need to ask you about now because you brought it up and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I gotta like get clarity on that. You mentioned if your genetics are good too. And
Yeah.
I think competing is an amazing sport. Anybody could
Mm-hmm.
fall in love with it because of how amazing it is. But at the end of the day, their genetics play a role. There's a shape they're looking
Yes.
for. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious, like, what's your take on all of that?
Yeah, it's definitely genetics will play a role. No matter how hard you train, if you don't have the right genetics for it, um, it's not going to be a successful. Like, you're not going to be winning shows and stuff. Like, you have to have a different perspective on it. If you know that you're not genetically gifted in that way, kind of take it as, you know what, this is the best body I can bring and I'm having fun with it. But don't expect to go to the next level. And it might sound harsh, but we're all built for something. And maybe competing isn't it. Like, for me, like, I don't have the build to be a WNBA player. Sorry, genetically it will never happen. Okay. But I found my niche, and that doesn't mean you still can't have fun with it, have a good time, and have success in your own sense. Like, you accomplished something great, you made great friends, had a good time. But there are some things genetically that no matter what, we can't change. And if your body isn't aesthetic to what the judges think for the sport is, then it's just not going to be a show that, or it's not going to be a sport that you might find yourself winning.
Totally. And do you think that judges should, or I don't know, maybe they do say this, do you think judges will tell girls, like, you have maybe like the leanness, you have the right amount of muscle, but you don't have the actual genetic shape? Do you think they
Mm-hmm.
do that, or do you think they should be doing that?
Well, I'm not exactly sure, because I don't listen into everyone's feedback or anything.
Uh-huh.
I think it's important, and I think more and so a coach to give their athletes realistic expectations. Like, we can train this all we want, but it's not going to change the fact that your rib cage is extremely wide, for example,
Yeah.
or whatever the issue may be. Um, I think it's important that the athlete just comes into the show knowing that, you know what, I'm working with what I have. And it would be great if judges gave that feedback. I mean, sometimes it can be a little hard to hear, but at the same time, it puts things into perspective, and maybe you can reevaluate what your goals are in the sport.
I love that. I love that a lot because there is more to the sport than just being number one.
Absolutely.
There's a lot to enjoy about it. So thank you so much for sharing all of this and for talking and opening up so much and giving us so much value. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And before you go, I just want to know if you can let everybody know how they can find you, follow you, get in touch with you, maybe even work with you as well. Could you just let them know where they can do that?
Sure. If you want to stay up to date on my YouTube, I am doing my Road to the Arnold series, just like it did for Olympia. My YouTube is Ashley Kaltwasser. And then my Instagram is Ashley K Fit. And if you have any questions, just shoot me a DM or whatever at Ashley K Fit.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so everybody listening, go let her know how much you appreciate this episode. What were some of your
Oh,
main takeaways? And yeah, we'd love to obviously hear your feedback. And Ashley, thank you again for being on. To everybody listening, all the show notes and the website links for Ashley's YouTube and her website as well and her Instagram, I'm going to put it all in the show notes page. That's going to be on celestial.fit/podcast. She's going to have her own category. So of course, just click that if you're listening to this way in the future. If not, it'll be the first thing on the website for the first week that it's out. And for everybody listening, thank you so much again for tuning in. And I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world, while you're listening to this podcast. Just make it up.